Now, some say the problem with football referees at the top level is that they never played at a high standard. Okay, fair enough. Now, that's not necessarily the case for rugby, because Mike Adamson, who used to play for Scotland Rugby 7's, is a top-level rugby referee. So let's take a look at his story. The home of Scottish Rugby.
You had a distinguished playing career, Scotland 7's and rep games for Scotland as well. And you now make the move into refereeing. Do you think that the way or the level you played at as a player has helped you in your refereeing?
I hope so. I'd say playing at that level, there's probably an intensity of the game that I'll probably be used to.
He's mentioned the intensity, and so I've had this in the comments that, obviously I'm commenting on football referees, rugby referees, and I've had a couple of comments that say, you weren't, you haven't refereed, you haven't played at the high standard. Yeah, sure, I do appreciate that comment. And so I do understand the intensity. Quite often, yes, there's more skill, but quite often, if a player can cope with that high intensity, they can get further up in the playing system. And I've noticed this even from doing academy games, doing under 18 games, under 16 games even. The intensity is just that level higher than grassroots football. So I do appreciate it, and I think, as he says, it has probably helped him.
Going to refereeing, so it won't be a kind of big shock with the speed of the game.
Or even just the initial
kind of contact. So
start with refereeing.
Hopefully that'll help me progress as a referee.
How did you find the courses that you go through? If you want to be a potential referee in Scottish Rugby, you go through these courses which help you to achieve that. So what helped you within those courses in order to get where you are now?
I'd say there's obviously different levels of the courses. The first level is very it's quite basic with the kind of law knowledge.
He almost didn't want to say basic, did he? But it's the same with football. You've got to get through the door. If you make everything too difficult to start off with, you're not going to get people actually refereeing the games. So he did want to say, he said basic, which I think is same in football, but you need, like I said, you need to get people through the doors and actually on the pitches.
Aspect about it, moving up through the levels, it gets quite a bit more technical, and how to apply the laws well, being a smart referee, knowing when to apply them. I think it's quite important, because there'll be a lot of infringements going on the pitch at kind of ruck time, and it's kind of knowing which ones have an effect on the outcome of that ruck, or have the outcome on the outcome of the game.
That's interesting. So one of the main things I was getting confused by when starting to watch rugby recently is at the rucks and the scrums, why all of a sudden is there a foul? Like, for me, there didn't seem like there was anything going wrong, and all of a sudden the referee stuck his hand up, there's a foul. And it's trying to work it out. And actually, I understand that it's probably more complicated. There's multiple things that can happen during that ruck and scrum. But what he said is about managing it as well, which is one of the things that we are taught as football referees, especially as you go up the levels, is about managing the game, which, yes, sometimes is right, sometimes obviously is wrong, especially in football, because for the discipline side of things, maybe sometimes manage a little bit less and deal with the issue earlier, but that's a separate issue that we've been through already. But it's interesting to see that actually they've got a similar-ish, from what I'm hearing at least, similar-ish style that they're being taught to football.
The really useful thing that I found when I did level 1 was that there are aspects of the game which for 20 or 30 years you've completely ignored i.e. the scrum, and suddenly you have to referee that. So that can be interesting as well, coming from, because you're obviously a back as well, and you're looking at that kind of forward dynamic. How did you find that?
I'd say the scrums, obviously never being involved in a scrum, it's one of my big areas for improvement, and I'm doing a lot of work on the scrum area just now.
I think it's a massive advantage for Mike. I think when he walks on the park, and players know who he is, I think he's got a huge amount of respect from the...
I tell you what a fantastic point. What a fantastic point, that because he has the reputation that other players know who he is, he instantly can get a little bit more respect. It's a fair point, and yeah, in football you know that the Premier League referees, they've not played to a high standard at all. The reasons why you start refereeing normally is either you're not very good at playing. Fair enough. You love the game, so you want to participate. Or, which was sort of my problem, is that due to injuries and fitness, I had to stop playing because I just couldn't keep up with the pace anymore. So I took up refereeing because I loved it. However, I haven't got a name. The players that I referee for, they don't know me. So you have to try and build the respect, and that's the same with the referees in the Premier League, for example. They're not known for being players, so they have to try and gain that respect elsewhere. Whereas someone like Mike Adamson, if they know that he played to a high level, that respect's instantly there, and I think that massively helps. It would be great if we could get ex-players refereeing. That would be really good.
Off for him, which is great, but he also understands what players are trying to achieve, and we're always told that referees should have empathy with what players and the game's all about, and Mike, with his playing background, has that in bucket loads, so it's fantastic for him.
You talk about that sort of empathetic relationship between the referee and the player, but how quickly can that be learned? Because it is a new skill, and it must be difficult at first, because you've got to make that adjustment from playing. So how quickly can that come about?
There's a balance in every game between upholding the laws of the game and understanding what the players and understanding the kind of materiality of decision making. So it does take a bit of time. Playing background that Mike's got helps accelerate that progress. It does take a bit of time for other people to kind of get that balance between the laws and the materiality, but with a playing background like Mike's, it does fast track it.
And in terms of where Scotland are with top level referees, I mean, we want more referees at all levels. So is the idea to
that's not different in football.
See how far he can go in the
that's certainly the same
game, and hopefully make the grade.
Absolutely. I mean, he's only done sort of 8 or 9 senior games of rugby, and has come through those really, really well. So that's the unique thing about this. So hopefully other people might look at it and say, well, I've got a good playing background as well. I think I can achieve a bit in refereeing, and hopefully Mike would be the catalyst for other people to take up refereeing as well. And I think with Tapa Henning coming on board, and more investment within Scottish refereeing, I think it's the ideal time for people to get involved in refereeing in Scotland.
I'm going to link it back to football. However, I think it can be applicable for rugby as well. The problem is, so after you retire, if you're a top level player especially, after you retire, there seems to only really be 2 financially viable options, and that's a pundit, or I say in the broadcasting industry, or a coach. They seem to be the only real 2 options that are financially viable, because if you start refereeing, I don't think £30 at the weekend is going to cover your bills. Now, yes, I understand you may have been earning a lot, but not everyone. Championship, you're not earning as much. But I assume that will be the same with being a rugby referee. 30 quid at the weekend isn't going to cover you the same amount of money as the options of being a pundit or a coach. So it makes it a little bit less enticing, I suppose.
Any bad habits he had as a player that you've had to iron out in terms of his refereeing?
He always liked a bit of a chat with the referees, I seem to remember. Always used to sort of play the Mr. Nice Guy card, but always kind of do it in a way that was slowing down the game for the opposition. So we tried to get rid of that, and just.
Sorry to keep stopping it. I'm going back to me again. It was funny because I stopped playing, injuries and whatnot, started refereeing, but I was still desperate to play, so I started just playing Sunday League football, low level. By being a referee, oh my god, it changed my game completely. Before, I would be the vocal gobby one that would just pee off a referee. But as soon as I started refereeing, I started doing things more sneakily, talking to the referee more politely to try and get decisions my way, gamesmanship behind the referee's back. And I shouldn't admit it, but I did. That's what I did. Yeah, I think you learn to play the game differently if you're a referee.
It's a big transition from player to referee, there's no doubt about that, but hopefully we're working on that, changing his perspective from a player's perspective to a referee's perspective, which is obviously very different, without taking away the advantages that Mike has from his playing background.
How amazing would it be to get more high-level players becoming a referee? I think you would have to overcome the financial downside to start off with, for sure, because like I said, it's not going to support your mortgage, and pay for your bills at the low levels, is it? But it would be amazing to have more, and that's in football as well. Imagine being able to have Alan Shearer being a referee in a Premier League game. So that would be amazing. However, as a lower level referee that's going through the system, I would be annoyed actually almost that an ex-player is getting special treatment. So that's another thing to look at, and that might be me being in the wrong, but that's another thing to look at. But how fantastic is it that clearly in rugby, at least you've got one that has been at that level of high level playing and is now converted over to being a referee. That's fantastic. And like I said, Mike will obviously get instant respect from the players most of the time. So that's awesome. That's really good. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Have you ever thought of taking up refereeing in rugby, football, other sports? What would be putting you off? Are you a high level player that would... Have I got any high level players that watch my channel? That would be pretty cool. And if so, would you consider refereeing? Let me know. If you enjoyed, guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell icon as well. That would be awesome. And I'll see you next time.